The Chicago Cubs took a big bite out of the Big Apple, sweeping the New York Metropolitans in four straight games, sending their manager into the unemployment line. Can they do the same thing this weekend up north against the Milwaukee Brewers? On the south side, the White Sox took 2 out of 3 from the Cleveland Guardians. Can they keep their first place status against the lowly Kansas City Royals? In basketball, Caleb Wilson was introduced to the Chicago media while an important player resigns with the Los Angeles Lakers. The NFL shows no signs of slowing down. We have a very interesting article we want to share with you, along with the World Cup soccer update. Is the Team USA ready for prime time? And a whole lot more on this Friday fun edition of Second City Sports, which starts now.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Keep him on the field. And this one is dropped into left center field. Going back is Churio at the wall. Get out! For Robert Jr., his fourth of the season. And the Sox take the lead 2-1.
Armstrong gets into another one. Sends Edman back. He's watching it land in the stands. What a night from Pete Crow Armstrong. Goes wide. Up the guard again. And he scores. What a play!
On Jordan Binnington. No chance at all for the Blues netminders. Connor Bedard. Wow.
Getting what a catch. Gonzalez with the fade on the drive.
Motions left. They're blitzing. It's picked up. Caleb Groves, middle of the field, Loveland catch. Breaks away the 30. Loveland 20. Loveland 10. Loveland end zone. Touchdown Bears!
Welcome to another Friday fun edition of Second City Sports, the last Friday show for the month of June. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. Laeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here. You know it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
Do you follow Laeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG?
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you can, after you like the video, if you're watching us live here on YouTube, please hype the video if you can so we can get this out to more people as possible so we can make this your number one destination for Chicago and national sports talk. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're not unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do not 2 hour extravaganza we call a sports talk radio show. You got to hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Laeena will get the up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given Laeena full powers to give you dumbos to build and be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to our live gainers, LIVE Live Entertainment Gainers, checking us out live in living color at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels at 12:23 p.m. Central Standard Time. But as always, much love to the replay gainers checking us out on the replay, also at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. Don't you ever forget our motto, where we talk sports, music, or entertainment. We will always provide.
We'll be providing with some of the best of Second City Sports in our last show for the month of June. Of course, the U.S. men they lost yesterday to Turkey, but they really didn't. They didn't need that game, but they are set with their second round opponent. We'll talk about that. Some sports media news, including some changes for ESPN, as well as some other media news as well. We got NFL as the NFL draft will have another new home in a couple of years, and so much more. But also too, of course, we got a little NBA draft as the Bulls get their guys in the first round. But also some interesting moves involve some other teams. We'll have discussions about that too, and a lot more here. But first, let's talk a little baseball. As the Cubs, took care of business, they sweep the Mets in 4 games, including a interesting game last night as Cubs had a 3-0 lead. The Mets came back and tied at 4 injunctions, but Pico Armstrong I got an RBI double to go ahead RBI double in the 10th inning to take it in 10 innings 4-3. And of course, they also acquire middle reliever David Peterson from the Mets. And also to Carlos Mendoza, who we all figured that was probably gonna get the boot anyway. Looks like the Cubs sweeping the Mets kind of was the nail in the coffin for that one, as he gets the boot. Yeah, as our late friend Lamont Scott would say, his pink slip and late card after 34 and 47 start. Andy Green will take over for the interim there, but Sid, of course, they're gearing up for a big a pivotal, I would say a must win series, but a pivotal series against the Brewers. We'll talk about the Brewers after the break. But Sid, what do you think about the Cubs this week? Taking care of business against the Mets.
Well, it was all about Dansby Swanson, right? 15 RBI in the 4-game series. I know he went RBI last night. That's a word that makes any sense. But Dansby Swanson, as we talked about all year, Laeena, should he be moved down the lineup? Should he be benched? Which he was, given a few days off here and there over the last few weeks. But if you're the Cubs, the way you've been playing lately, you take all the wins that you get. And this is what happens when you're trying to build momentum and try to climb out of a hole and get back to that start that you had early in the season when you had 2 10-plus game winning streaks. One of the things that you have to do, you have to hit the ball. We all know that this Cubs offense can hit the ball, but Dansby Swanson led the charge, as I mentioned, with the 15 RBI performance. Michael Busch is quietly swinging the stick very well. Pedro Armstrong is having the best month of his career, perhaps, since last year when we all talked about him for MVP. He had the game-winning RBI last night. He had a home run in this series. And also, too, you got to look at guys like Carson Kelly and Michael Conforto, the former New York Met. Both of them had big hits in this series as well. So when you look at this Cubs team, yes, they played the lowly New York Mets, but the things are starting to come together offensively. But on the ugly side of this, you face another injury bug. Edward Cabrera injured himself, making an out at first base the other night. He had to be carted off the field. We'll see what his status is going forward. And that's why you mentioned they picked up David Peterson from the Mets for insurance. But the one thing that concerns me, Laeena, they got away with it last night. It's their bullpen, but their bullpen's been an issue all year long because mainly their starters have been injured. A couple of their bullpen guys had to be elevated to starters. But the one thing that still concerns me, Laeena, and this has to get fixed by the trade deadline, is their bullpen. But the way that the offense is playing right now and the way the starting pitching is trying to hold it together, you like the way this team is playing right now, despite the fact they were playing the New York Mets.
Yeah, I mean, look, during that doubleheader on Wednesday, he had a Swanson, I said so, had a grand slam, a 3-run home run, a triple, a stolen base, and of course, he drove in 15 runs since RBI became a stat back in 1920. No other MLB player has accomplished that in more than 3 of those 5 feats on the same day. He did it in the same day with that doubleheader. So, look, I think, I know it's the Mets. I know the Mets, but we know that the Cubs have tend to not do well against the teams that they should beat. So the fact that they were able to take care of the Mets, they kind of bounced back for, giving up that lead last night, and they got back and they won it. That's what you're supposed to do against the Mets. And look, I think this shows that you're battle tested. Now, look, on the flip side, yes, you're going to be facing the Brewers. Yes, you're going to be facing Mizorowski. We'll get to Mr. Mizorowski in a second here, but it's one of those days where this is sort of like showing you that the Cubs have been able to scratch and claw and persevere all season long. And look, it's going to be the case here starting tonight against the Brewers. We'll see how the Brewers look in that. Mizorowski, if you want to talk about Jacob Mizorowski and what he's done, I mean, look, he and Nolan Ryan, who did it back in 1972, the record the following 4-start span, 29 innings, plus he's 31 since one or 0 runs allowed, fewer than 10 hits allowed, and also 48 strikeouts. So look, the Cubs have a huge test tonight against Mizorowski, but you've got to think that even the all-time greats have had bad showings. So it'll be interesting to see if the Cubs can break through against Mizorowski. Now the last 2 games of the series for tomorrow night, they haven't announced yet because they, of course, the starting pitching's been in flux, but they'll. Kyle Harrison will be on the bump for the Brewers on tomorrow, and you've got Brandon Woodruff to finish up that series. So it'll be probably going to be a bullpen type thing for the Cubs. So it's going to be an interesting test. It's going to be very hard, of course, as you're in Milwaukee. But again, I think if you're the Cubs, if you take 2 out of 3, that's a big win. You got to win at least one to at least, try to at least if you can gain a game. You're 6.5 up as we're recording this. So if you're the Cubs, I think you definitely want to be able to at least gain a little bit of ground. It's going to be hard to sweep, but you got to at least win one game just to get that confidence going.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid Laeena here with you on this Friday fun edition of the program, the last Friday show for the month of June. Wrapping up with this Cubs discussion to open up our show the last moment or two. Before I give my thoughts about the Milwaukee Brewers, I want to ask you. Remember, I asked you about Nico Horner. You said you were kind of worried. I know he went 0 for 3 yesterday, but he had some big hits also in that series against the Mets. Alex Bregman, I know it hasn't shown up in the statistics yet, just like unlike Dansby Swanson. But are you still worried about those two offensively, and how important is these two guys?
They're going to have to be big. They're going to have to be big
for the series against Milwaukee this week.
They're going to have to be
These
big.
two guys will go, in my opinion. So will the Cubs against the Brewers.
Those two have to. They have to. Horner has to do well. Bregman has to do well. If they both of them have to, one or both of them have to. It's going to be hard against Mizorowski, but I think if you can, break through to him on tonight, then you could probably do that. I think that's going to be the key here. If the Cubs will want to, like I said, sweeping is going to be hard to do. Like I said, it's in Milwaukee, but if you can win 2 out of 3, I think it's going to leave with those two. Yeah, the pitching, it is what it is with the pitching, with all this stuff going on right now. But it's really going to be the hit. It's going to be the start for the Cubs. They want to win this series against the Brewers this weekend.
Yeah, starting with tonight's game in particular, Jacob Mizorowski, for those of you that haven't seen him, he did lose his last start to the Atlanta Braves, which are a very good squad, even though they're technically without their 5-2 player, Ronald Acuna Jr. The Braves found a way to beat him last week ago tonight, by the way. For the Cubs, Mizorowski has had the Cubs number these last 2 years, including the playoffs last year in a Game 5 deciding clincher in Miller Park. Yeah, I'm not calling it that new corporate name. Get over it. But Mizorowski throws 99 to 102 miles an hour. The Cubs struggle, just like a lot of teams struggle with that, especially with that fastball. His fastball placement is excellent. He could definitely full hitters with that changeup as well. So I think for the Cubs, the home runs are not going to be there tonight. So you have to play some hit and run, steal bases, and maybe whenever the situation calls it, put a bunt down or two just to put some pressure on that Milwaukee Brewers infield defense. So I think that's going to hopefully that should be the game plan for the Cubs tonight. Now, as far as the rest of the series is concerned, you mentioned about Kyle Harrison, who's going to take the bump for Milwaukee tomorrow. He surprisingly is having a good year. Then for Sundays, you mentioned they're going to face Brandon Rucha, who just got out the IL recently. So, and he's traditionally has owned the Cubs throughout his Milwaukee Brewers career. So the Cubs have all the tools offensively, but can they get aggressive against Jacob Mizorowski tonight? And I think if they can steal and win, that's definitely send the Cubs. And like you said, Milwaukee's not underneath this series. But if you're the Cubs, if you take 2 out of 3, especially the way you climbed out of this hole for the last 2 or 3 weeks, this confidence is going to go sky high as you get ready to come back home next week to face San Diego and St. Louis.
Meanwhile, the White Sox are getting ready to stay in their division at home against the Royals. I think 2 out of 3 against the Guardians. But there's still a lot to be decided in that division. And some other interesting news and notes for baseball. And don't look now, but the Phillies are right nipping at the Braves' heels. We'll tell you why. Laeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago Baseball Talk coming up right after this.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch. And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch. You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops. Let's try an easy one.
Every day we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports with the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. See if the kid is me, Laeena McGee is she. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter X in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow Laeena McGee on the Twitter X, Q's going on IG.
As we continue our Cubs, White Sox, and baseball talk from around the world of Major League Baseball for this half hour. If you have any questions or comments regarding those subjects, you can definitely hit us up right now in the comments at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Laeena will get the opening screen for you.
White Sox take 2 out of 3 against the Guardians. You could probably say this series could have gone either way. The White Sox could have swept. Cleveland could have won 2 out of 3. I mean, let's be honest here. But they do win 2 out of 3 as they gear up for another weekender against another AL Central rival, the Royals, coming up. We'll talk about that in a second. Now, Sam Antonacci's walk-off, well, thanks in part to bad defense by the Guardians. Let's be real here with that one. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be real here with White Sox fans. Actually, you guys know that too. Some good pitching performances. And such as Sean Burke outdueled Parker Messick. Meanwhile, with Wednesday's game, the Sox did come back, forced it to extras, but they weren't able to get the sweep there. So the White Sox, they're now tied with the Guardians. I know the loss caught them because, of course, the Guardians have played 2 more games than the White Sox. I know people want to say that, but all right. But like I said, I think the Guardians, I know the White Sox said, look, you're going to get your shot with everybody, but be careful what you wish for. That's all I'll say with that one. And like the Royals, you should be able to beat the Royals. The Royals have been up and down this year, but you still got to deal with guys like Salvador Perez, who we know he loves playing the White Sox, and also Bobby Wood Jr. as well. I know they're coming off losing a series to split their series with the Rays. They split their series with the Rays because they played a 4-gamer, but so let me just see what the White Sox do with the Royals starting tonight.
You like the way this White Sox team continues to fight all year long. We give Will Venable the partial credit for setting the tone and setting the expectations, the template in that locker room. But you have to give the majority of the credit to the players that they have in there. You mentioned about Sam Antonacci, who came out with that big hit on Monday in that series opener. Miguel Vargas had a big big series, including the game-winning home run in Tuesday night's win. And other players like Randall Grichuk, the Chris Getz, the GM found him off the scrap heap. He had one of the 2 home runs in that game on Wednesday, which they failed to win. But they showed the grit, they showed the heart, and some of those wins they were winning, that they were getting in with those moments in April. They still find the ways to get those wins again. I know it backfired against them on Wednesday, but you like the way this team is fighting, the way this team keeps playing. And so, as I said before, when Murakami went down, I think they still now back to 1 game over 500 ever since Murakami was injured. But you like the way this team continues to fight, find ways to win. But you mentioned about the starting pitching. You gave Sean Burke some love. I was worried about him the other night, but you mentioned 6 strikeouts to 1 walk in 6 and a third innings on Tuesday. He out-dueled the starter from the Guardians, so that was a hell of a job by Sean Burke. Let's give Anthony Caves some love too. He's really picked it up after struggling his last 2 starts. So the starting pitching that the White Sox have had in this series was very damn near unhittable against everybody else. The White Sox gave him 2 blown saves in this series. So the White Sox definitely gained confidence and making him look human as well. So all even though you're disappointed as a Sox fan, they didn't get the sweep on Wednesday, leaving the bases loaded in the bottom of the 10th. You like the way this team is playing. I think if they still have their record above 500, which they will by the time we get to the show on Monday, closing out the month of June, this team will be competitive for a playoff spot. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm not saying go save for your playoff tickets or anything like that. I'm not saying they're going to win the division hands down, because it's going to be a battle between Cleveland and Chicago at the end. But if the White Sox finish their record above 500 for the month of June, this team will go into the All-Star break a realistic chance of being competitive for a playoff spot. This thing is real, folks. Just get ready because this is going to be one hell of a ride.
I'll believe it when I see it, because like I said, I think they've been able to get through, get by with some of this stuff. Yes, they've had their highs, they've had their lows, they've had their kind of like, we're able to scratch it up, but sometimes that can come back to bite you in the butt. Ask Detroit last year. So I'm not saying that Detroit will come back and win it. Look, they didn't have a good week this week, but I'm just saying, that's why I'm not raising my expectations. Look, if they finish above 500, great. Will they be competing for a playoff spot? Maybe, but a lot could happen between now and the All-Star break and the trade deadline. I'll believe it when I see it. I know Ed Snodgy's been really solid. I know the pitch has been really good for the most part. Davis Meyer will, I don't know. He'll get into the All-Star game as a reserve, probably, I'm sure. But again, I'm not there yet. So again, they kind of came out of nowhere. Now people are noticing you. You had your struggles against New York. You also had your struggles against, you got swept by Detroit. So I don't know which team am I going to get now. We'll see if Marco, he should be back next week sometime. So I'm kind of a little worried about this White Sox team. That's why I'm not going to raise my expectations. So look, if they exceed it, great. If they don't, look, this is where I am with this team right now. So no, look, they got David Sandlin. Like, he's back up on the bump. He was kind of up and down when he was up here. He gets to face Stephen Kolek in tonight's matchup. Of course, as I said with Davis Martin, he faces veteran Micah Waka, and they got, of course, Anthony Kay against Luendia Avila. So look, they should be able to handle the Royals pretty easily. It's going to be a little bit warmer this weekend, so they should be able to win 2 out of 3, perhaps even sweep the Royals. They should take care of business with that. Look, they've got Baltimore. They go at Baltimore. Baltimore's been a house of horrors for the White Sox in recent years. And they go to Cleveland again. Now, I don't know if Jose Ramirez is going to be back by then. We'll see. But yeah, look, it gets a little bit tougher for the White Sox. They get Boston's, and they got to face the A's to finish up the first half of the season. So look, if they can stay within that range, okay, fine, I'll buy them. But I'm not there yet. I'm sorry, I'm not.
Well, let's just give you the facts. They're above 500 against the AL Central this year. They defeated Cleveland at home for the first time in a long time. Took 2 out of 3. Going into the series against Kansas City tonight. Yes, the Kansas City has been a thorn in the White Sox tail for years, but so far they've taken 5 out of 7 games against Kansas City. Yes, they got swept by Detroit. They're 3-3 against Detroit this year. But they're even with them overall this year, and they're taking care of Minnesota so far this year. So the White Sox, their longest losing streak this year is 3 games. So every time their backs have been against the wall, they come back fighting and starting new streaks. So, and like you said, they should take care of Kansas City this weekend. I'm gonna put them on the table, as Ken Davis, our good friend, would say. I'm picking them to sweep the Kansas City Royals. That offense should return this weekend. We all know that the White Sox are a different team at home than they are on the road. I expect a lot of home run balls between tonight and Sunday for the against the Kansas City Royals. So we'll see what happens with the Chicago White Sox, the first place Chicago White Sox. Couple other notes on the South Side Hitman before we move on to the rest of MLB. Congratulations to Brooke Fletcher. She becomes the second female ever to color commentate a White Sox game. Cheryl Racel, good friend of the show, she filled in on the radio call many moons ago. No disrespect to Cheryl, in much respect. She did it way back in the day. But Brooke Fletcher becomes the first female to color commentate a White Sox game. She filled in for Steve Stone the last 2 games of that Cleveland series. She did a great job. And congratulations to White Sox charities. They had a telethon during Tuesday night's game against the Guardians. Locked on White Sox podcast, Sox on 35th, featured good friend of the show, Jordan Lazowski, and of course the Section 108. They were selling their T-shirts throughout the broadcast. I know all 3 of those podcasts. We're good friends with them. Nick Morawski stepped in for Ty Welter for the Locked on Sox the other night. All 3 of them did a great job. All the money goes to the proceeds for White Sox. Some of them personally. So I just want to give a shout out to those great folks.
Yeah, congrats. I was going to say the Brooke Fletcher stuff when we do our sports media news, our sports potpourri segment, but since you already went ahead and did it, so I'll give her props. But like you said, I remember when Cheryl raced out did it back in the mid '80s, and like I said, she's the first to do it on the TV side. I think people need to kind of swallow with that. This is the second season sports on Sports Social Chicago. King McGee, City Brown with you. Time the rest of baseball. The Yankees. Like I said, they won 2 out of 3. In Detroit against the Tigers. They did lose the opener of their series against the Red Sox, 6-3, and they had 4 errors in that game, and all 6 of those runs that the Red Sox scored were unearned. So that was just look. Every team's going to have these types of games. So I think if you're a Yankees fan, you don't want to lose to the Red Sox, who have not had a good year. But it is one of those things where you're just like, you're gonna have these games like this where nothing goes right. So don't be too upset about it. You're still up 2 games against the Rays, where they won 2 out of 3 against Kansas City at home. So it's definitely going to be between those 2 teams in the AL East. So Aaron Judge, no word on when he'll be back. I'm sure the Yankees are going to be maybe do some moves for the trade deadline, but. Yeah, it's going to be between those 2 in the AL East.
Yeah, like I said, I watched last night's game between the Yankees and the Red Sox. Like I said, it was just one of those nights for New York. Like it's against a struggling Boston team. I'm putting it kindly. It's going to happen, but I expect the Yankees to win that series this weekend up there in Beantown. But I want to go back to that series against the Detroit Tigers. The reason why I laughed because many people, including some folks in the Chicago media, thought that, since the Tigers swept the White Sox, they're back in the AL Central race. Wrong. They lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees without Aaron Judge. And guess what happened on Wednesday, Laeena? Another reason why I laughed. Tariq Skubal, who decided to chat it up with Mike Vassar 1 week ago tonight, his ass lost the game on Wednesday. He gave him not 1, but 2 home runs to Paul Goldschmidt. And the Yankees sent that ass home 4-2 to take 2 out of 3. So, Laeena, I know it's a long baseball season, and people wanted to put Detroit in so bad back in the race over Chicago and Cleveland. As I said to you on Monday, let's see if Detroit can go on the run. Well, they went into a speed bump called the New York Yankees. So for the Yankees, for the people that all the New York Yankees, and shout out to Paul Goldschmidt, sending 2 dingers up Tariq Skubal's butt. Take that.
Well, it could be the White Sox lost 2 out of 3 to the Yankees too, so they can't. Look, you White Sox fans can't exactly talk. So I think I kind of like you want to check like
Hey,
that.
the Yankees are a way better team than Detroit, though.
No, but like I said, we'll see. Like I said, talk to me by the All-Star break, and we'll see what really happens with some of these teams and such. Now, going to the West, I mean, look, with this confusion over the AL West, I mean, look, we talked about this. The Mariners didn't have a good week this week. They lost 2 out of 3 in Pittsburgh, wrapping up their they're still going on East Coast Ripple. We'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, not a good showing by the Mariners this week. It's going to be interesting to see if, and also Houston's had a nice little stretch here. Yeah, like I said, I don't know if look, I don't know if the Astros are for real. I don't know, but they won 2 out of 3 against Toronto, and I know they won their opener against the Tigers, but we'll see. I don't know if Houston's for real. We'll have to wait and see. A's, same thing. They're all 1.5 back. They lost 2 out of 3 in San Francisco. They continue their West Coast trip. Also, the Rangers. You thought the Rangers might actually, kind of get a go at it in that division. Well, I mean, granted they did win the opener against Toronto, but they lost 2 out of 3 to Miami. So yeah, it seems like nobody wants to win the AL West. I mean, like I said, let's wait till the All-Star break and we'll see who's going to be lead. Could it be Seattle? I'm not a believer in Houston, so I don't know if Houston's going to be up there. We'll see. I think Texas, could get up there. I know the A's could be up there too. So yeah, the West is going to be very wild out in the AL as usual.
I'm leaving the question mark with the Houston Astros, so I'm agreeing with you. Shout out to the Miami Marlins. They had their largest Monday night crowd ever. I know they're one of the host cities next to Boston and Seattle hosting the men's FIFA World Cup. I know they had a bunch of fans in Marlins Park earlier this week against the Rangers. You could tell it was almost like a World Series type atmosphere. You could tell that the Marlins players were hyped up and they're ready to play. I think that was one of the reasons why they took that series from the Texas Rangers at home earlier this week. But getting back to the AL West, it looks like I have to say this again, until further notice. Whichever team gets on a hot streak for 2 to 3 weeks, wins 10 out of 12, 15 out of 20, or 18 out of 22, somewhere along that range, that's the team that's going to win this division. I said that the Texas Rangers were the most disappointing team this year in baseball. I know they have a first-year manager there, but for the talent that they have, they just haven't put it together. I hate to say it, Laeena, your Mariners are right there, even though they're barely hanging on to first place. Look at that game yesterday. You didn't have to face Paul Skeens in this series. You left a lot of men on the pond yesterday. You only can scratch out 1 run. That's very disappointing.
Yeah, that was very Cubs-like in that game.
Yeah.
Let's be right. I mean, they should have won the series. I know. That Wednesday game was just that went right there. But yeah, they should have won that series against Pittsburgh. But I digress. But that ALS, like I said, we'll be talking about this, I think, for the next a couple of weeks. Until the All-Star break. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Keep McGee, Steve Brown with you as we talk some baseball here. Going to the National League, starting with the East. Remember, I told you, Sid, that the Phillies, they're creeping up against Atlanta. We'll talk about Atlanta. They're kind of mini free-for-all in a second. But yeah, the Phillies sweep. They won 3 out of 4, I should say, against the Nationals. But they actually trailed in 2 of those games. They're actually down to their last out in those games. They hit 4 game-tying and go-ahead home runs in the 9th. In that series against the Nationals. That's the most by any team in a single series in MLB history. So now they're only four back in the NL East. Of course, Bryce Harper's leading the way. He had that 2-run home run. Also, Derek Hill as well. He hit a 3-run shot to get it going there. He had a race. I think he had 2 home runs, 4 RBIs in that whole series. And the Phillies actually scored 8 in that second game. They came back and won at 14-9. So Don Mattingly's got those guys playing well, and they're kind of like knocking on the door with the Braves.
I'll start out with the Nationals first. The Nationals are just like the White Sox, they burst out on the scene with a nice surprise to start, hit a lull, but you think there's a chance for them to stay over the 500 mark. This series has shown that they still have, with a young squad, they still have a little bit of ways to go, i.e. their bullpen, just like the White Sox. They need some veteran arms in there. I know it's not time for them to quote-unquote win yet, but, they've done a phenomenal job. On the flip side for Philadelphia, as you mentioned, the starting pitcher wasn't there this series, but the bats came alive with Alec Braum, with Brandon Marsh, Bryson Stott, mentioned by Bryce Harper, who busted the door down with a leading with a go-ahead two-run homer in last night's game to complete the series win. Kyle Schwarber, he's taking a nosedive a little bit as far as the home runs, but he's still hitting the cover out the ball. So as we mentioned, the Phillies have all the talent on offense. Their starting pitching has been good this year. Zach Wheeler, who's back from injury, he's been having a good 2-3 stretch in his last couple of starts. Christopher Sanchez, the young left-hander, he's a top 3 candidate for NL Cy Young, next to Jacob Mizrazo in Milwaukee in the National League. So Philadelphia, with that manager change, as we told you, they have a chance to get back in this race against Atlanta. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to overtake them. I don't think it's impossible, but you still have some ways to go. But they'll definitely get that first NL wild card spot the way they're playing. So Philadelphia's finally playing to preseason expectations. Let's see if they can keep it going here.
Speaking of Atlanta, they got swept by the Padres. They're out west right now. I know Acuna's still hurt, but yeah, not a good little stretch here. I wouldn't panic just yet if you're Atlanta, but you're facing a Giant squad. You should be able to be a rebound, but we'll see. But yeah, Atlanta, they're in a tough stretch. They've lost 3 of their last. They've only won 3 of their last 10. So Atlanta. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I wouldn't panic yet, but yeah, it's getting a little rough down there.
Yeah, if Ronald Acuna Jr. is missing an action past the All-Star break, like I said, I don't know anything, but if he's missing action after the All-Star break, you really have to panic if you're the Braves front office. I know you don't want to overreact and make any major moves unless Acuna Jr. heaven forbid he's out for the year. I know hamstrings can be very tricky. Just look at what happened to Cal Till here in Chicago. Mm-hmm. But Atlanta, this is that toughest stretch of the season. They still have offensive talent, and they can survive a small stretch without Acuna Jr. But if they're going to be without him for any longer length of time, I think this team is in trouble. Yes, they had some good starting pitchers this year. Bryce Elder, and also, too, I know Spencer Strider has been finding his way to come back. Chris Hill is having a hell of a year, the veteran left-hander. But if Ronald Acuna Jr. is not back in this lineup at some point, this Braves team is in trouble.
Mm-hmm. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Now in the Central, the Brewers, they did sweep Cincinnati. Like, you were the one that was saying that Cincinnati. You were saying this. People were saying about Detroit. You were saying about the Reds. That maybe they could get something going. Well, Milwaukee said no, not no, but hell no, and they swept them there. St. Louis, I said, I'm not a believer in St. Louis. I know that they lost to their series. I think their last game against the D-backs, it was supposed to be a 4-gamer, but that last game that got postponed, I think it's gonna be make up. I think like August 5th, but yeah, I mean St. Louis,
July
like 23rd. I said, July 23rd. Okay, yeah, so we'll see if St. Louis. We'll see if they're for real. We'll see. Pittsburgh sort of the same thing. I know they had a good week this week as well. Now going out west, the Dodgers. Well, like I said, I mean the Padres swept the Braves. So the only problem is that the Dodgers took care of Minnesota and Minnesota. So Ohtani had a nice showing there. He was out of sync. But out of sync, I guess, by the Dodgers standards. But they ended up winning that series, sweeping that series, I shout out to Mookie Betts, who hit his 300 career home run in that game with Ohtani pitching. So congrats to him. And they become the first team to reach 50 in the majors in wins. They had 17 hits in that second game. 12-3, they beat the Twins there. So the Dodgers are dodgering. They're just doing their thing, taking care of business.
You made up a new term. We could use that for the show. The Dodgers are dodgering. Get it trademark, write that down. But I want to focus in on San Diego just a moment. As I told you, they've been another disappointing team for me all year long. They finally swept a good team. Let's see if they keep it going. They got another big series at home this weekend. Shout out to our guy Herb Lawrence. I know he's listening and watching, but they got another big series this weekend we'll tell you about just a moment before they head out on the road on the East Coast next week, which their first time would be here in Chicago against the Chicago National League Ball Club. But let's see if San Diego can build off this momentum. They have talent on offense. They got decent starting rotation. They got Mason Miller, the best closer in the game right now. Let's see if San Diego can build off this momentum. You mentioned about the Dodgers dodgering, and like you said, Minnesota. Minnesota can sneaky make a run. The Dodgers showed them that Minnesota's not ready for big time yet. So that's what happened with that. As far as Cincinnati is concerned, they did not bring their bats against Milwaukee. As we say all the time, great pitching beats great hitting. That's what we saw in that series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I think the
Dodgers. Like I see it.
Yeah, I'll say the Dodgers are just doing their thing, so we'll see if they can keep it up now. Speaking of this weekend series, Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, they kick off their weekend series. Houston and Detroit, we'll see which one of these teams are for real. Washington and Baltimore in the district series, as they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Texas and Toronto, Arizona and Tampa Bay, as Arizona continues their gets ready for their East Coast trip. Of course, Yankees and the Red Sox, ESPN Unlimited for that one. Philadelphia and the Mets, Seattle and Cleveland, and Kansas City against the Royals. Against the White Sox. They're kicking off that weekend series.
Speaking of that opener, the Cincinnati-Pittsburgh series, Paul Skeens will be facing Andrew Abbott tonight, so that's a good pitching matchup there. Let's see if the Reds can surprise some folks in beating Paul Skeens. We'll see about that. The rest of your schedule for this weekend series looks like this. The Cubs will take on the Milwaukee Brewers 90 miles north of us. The opening game tonight can be seen exclusively on Apple TV Plus at 6:45 p.m. Colorado will take on Minnesota in the Twin Cities. The Miami Marlins will head out on the road. They'll take on the St. Louis Cardinals. The Oakland Athletics, as we call them on this show, they'll take on the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim again. The Dodgers and the Padres will get it on tonight from San Diego. The first game of that series can be seen exclusively on Apple TV Plus at 8:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. And the Atlanta Braves will head out west. They'll face the San Francisco Giants.
And that should be an interesting one there. Now, your national TV schedule for this weekend, of course, ABC tomorrow at noon Central Time. You got the Yankees and the Red Sox. Okay. Of course, if you got MLB Network, you can watch the second game of the Dodgers-Padres series. And on Sunday, get a little bit of a doubleheader if you have Peacock. You got the A's against the Angels, if you're into that. And also, of course, the Yankees and the Red Sox to finish up that series. So, just gonna leave that there. But yeah, I guess I'm sure earlier in the season, I'm sure they thought that this would be a better matchup, I guess. But it's still a rivalry, I guess. So yeah, so that's your schedule for this weekend in baseball.
Interesting for that broadcast on Sunday. Roger Clemens will be in the booth with Jason Benetti, so we'll see how he does in that role for that game. So we'll keep our eyes out on that. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 kicks off following this timeout right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. When we return, we'll review this past Tuesday's NBA draft. The Bulls get their men. What kind of grades did the pundits give them? We'll have some NFL news as well, a World Cup soccer update, some sports media news, and a whole lot more. I'm Sid, that's the kid, and you're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
How do you take care of your mind health?
For my mental health, I meditate in the mornings.
I have my dogs. They're the best.
I just find ways that help me just relax.
Finding things that make me happy, like being close to my family.
I meditate a lot and read books.
I have hobbies outside of the game. I'm able to switch off. I'm able to turn my brain off from the game of basketball.
Your mind health matters.
Your mind health matters.
sport like that.
Your Marine Corps' way of life is to defend the American way of life. Every day, no matter where we serve, we take a stand for our nation, for each other, for us all. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Everybody in a work zone is someone somebody.
This is my mom. She works for KDOT.
This is my dad.
This is my mom.
This is my daddy.
This is my sister.
This is my daddy.
This is my son, Scott. He was killed while working in a highway work zone. When you drive through a work zone, drive like a life depends on it. Because it does.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports with the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Laeena McGee is she. Sidney Brown here is me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow Laeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
As we kick off hour number 2, discussing the Bulls in the NBA, perhaps NFL, some NFL as well, time permitting. In this half hour, if you have any questions and comments regarding those subjects, you definitely want to hit us up right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Laeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Off to the hardwood we go as we recap this past week's NBA draft, as well as some other NBA news and nuggets. Starting with the draft, as expected, AJ Dabowska, he ends up, going to the Wizards. Of course, that was expected. Darren Peterson, of course, he goes to Utah. Memphis, they got Cam Boozer from Duke, of course, Peterson from Kansas, and Dabowska from BYU. And the Bulls, kind of as expected, mostly chalk. They drafted North Carolina freshman sensation Caleb Wilson. They get their guy. He's a sharpshooter. He can shoot the three. He's a great floor general, as well as a really good defender too. Now, unfortunately, as we found out that he injured his hand during the season. Of course, he hit that big shot against Duke in the first meeting out in Chapel Hill, but decided that was more his people's decision, not his decision to not play in the AC tournament, and the tournament that I think it's safe to say that the North Carolina probably could have gone a little bit further, but I digress. But yeah, look, I mean, it looks like they're starting to kind of get it going here with the Bulls. They also at 15. They got Dalen Sway from Texas. I know some people were a little bit worried about this one, but like I said, he was a freshman player of the year. He was at Xavier. He transferred to Texas, was SEC newcomer of the year. He was a big reason. We talked about him during the tournament. He was one of the big reasons why Texas made it all the way to the Sweet 16 this past tournament. So you get a guy that's a big guy. He can shoot. He can rebound. He's a good rim protector. He's a great defender. So the Bulls definitely got their guys. So what did you think about the Bulls draft?
I know Dalen Swain is 6'8", 220, and like I say, he's a very good defender. Like I said, we did talk about him last year, but I'm just upset at that pick. Not at him personally, but it's just at that pick that, as we said, this Bulls team needs shooters, and realistically, you're not going to get everything right away. But with these two picks, I think Bryson Graham has did a great job selecting players that can help make an impact as they try to start this rebuild. Like you said, Caleb Wilson, we expected, our one in Darius to come. We'll tell you where he went in just a moment. But, Caleb Wilson fits what the Bulls are, this new era of Bulls basketball is trying to do. Like you said, we saw him, even though it's a little bit of a shorter sample size at North Carolina. His ball handling skills needs a little bit of work on, but like I said, he has the range. He can go get it. This kid will definitely get better. Yes, I know he went to the Michael Jordan School in North Carolina, but for his size and the way the NBA is going today, as far as the game is being played, Caleb Wilson fits that. Like you said, with Dalen Swain, we talked about him. He's definitely a scorer. He could go get it. We talked about defense as well, that Tiago Splitter wants to develop a defensive culture as well. I think these two guys will eventually adapt to the culture on the defensive end. I'm not worried about their offensive skills. I'm worried about both of them, especially Swain, about how they fit defensively. But I think both of them will get there. Offense is going to take care of themselves. I want to see how these two young guys will get better defensively.
Yeah, I think this is definitely going to be one of those things where I think that the type of roster that Coach Splitter is going to have and the type of development that he'll show. And I think, look, it's going to be very interesting though to see how these two sort of fit into that's the type of offense that Coach Splitter wants to maintain. Now, there were a couple of trades that the Bulls had. Now, the Bulls did have 2 picks in the second round. They decided to do. They decided not to. They traded Braden Smith, but of course, from Purdue, but he ended up getting traded to Indiana. The Bulls got Cam Jones, a second round pick swap from 2028 and 30. And also the good old return of, get ready, Sid, cash considerations. Yay! And also
welcome back, my friend.
and also later on in the draft, they traded the 56th pick, which they had in the second round for good old cash considerations. So let's just put the cash considerations thing on the Raptors, Sid. I mean, I saw our buddies from CHGO, Mac Peck and Big Dave. I know, and of course, Will Gottlieb. But yeah, Matt was almost lost it when they did the cash considerations. But look, Bryson Grant's credit though, he did. He and Coach Splitter was making the rounds at both Chicago sports radio stations yesterday, and he defended saying, "Look, I mean." We knew that Jones is actually kind of was underutilized when he was at Indiana, so it could be kind of like that extra guard, I guess, for them for Cam Jones. I should say Cam Jones, that's his name, but yeah. So I guess add more depth to that guard play. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm sure. Look, I'm sure Graham had his reasons for doing what he did. I know somebody was like, it was Michael Reinsdorf. He said, no, that it was my decision to do that. So I guess hopefully that ends it there.
Well, I guess we all know next year's team MVP is going to be cash consideration. So he is going to make a big impact. Michael Reinsdorf is having a big smile on his face. Bryson Graham hugs him like it's his own son. I'm just saying.
There's a good visual too. That's a kind of a visual there, but
The question is, Laeena, real quick, the question is, what jersey number will cash considerations wear? Will it be the old 99, number 1, 00 like Robert Parrish?
7-Eleven maybe?
She bring it with Bros Brass with. I'm just saying.
7-Eleven? Hey, 7-Eleven maybe? I mean, those are supposed to be the lucky numbers, right?
Oh, good call.
Yeah,
got options.
Just saying.
Yeah,
got multiple options. So I think the jerseys are more. I think it's going to be coming up. I think next week. No, we're kidding. But going by the rest of the draft, we're not going to go through all of them because we don't have time. But were there any picks that kind of stood out to you? Were there multiple picks? Oh, okay, that's interesting. Or it was like, okay, was there any picks that kind of made you scratch your head?
I mentioned by Darius Lecoq, the freshman sensation out of Arkansas. He was selected by the Sacramento Kings at number 7. I think that's a good pick for Sacramento. Can they get the rest of that roster turned around? That's $1 million question. But, Russell Westbrook has been there for the last year or so. I know he's getting at the twilight of his career, and the Sacramento needed a new floor general. So I think Darius Lecoq eventually will work out for Sacramento. Kingston Flemings, he goes to the Atlanta Hawks. At least on the roster, he's the replacement for Trae Young. We'll see what happens there. Yaxo Landenborg from University of Michigan, he goes to Golden State. I think that's an interesting pick there. I think he's going to be the backup to Draymond Green, and if he stays there, he's going to be the future of their Warriors front court. We'll see what happens there. You mentioned we talked about Dalen Swain a moment ago, and I'm trying to find one more that I wanted to discuss with you in that first round. I'm just looking. This is live, folks, so I'm just here bringing it up here real quick. Braden Burries, the fabulous point guard at Arizona, because of that Giannis trade, which won't be official until around this time next weekend, he goes to the Milwaukee Bucks with the number 10 pick as Milwaukee tries to rebuild now. Life after Giannis.
I hope he turns off his social media, because there's going to be a lot of Bucks fans are going to want him to kind of. He's not like Giannis, but like I said, look, he's a solid. He was a solid player over at Arizona. He was all all freshman Big 12. So it's gonna take some time. He's only he's not even 19 yet. So I think folks need to kind of just keep your expectations a little bit level with him, because look, it's gonna be development. They're probably gonna be rebuilding in Milwaukee. So I think that's really gonna be interesting to see what happens with him. Mara, I know you really wanted him for the Bulls. Of course, the Thunder got him first. Sam Presley, thanks a lot. Morris Johnson Jr., of course, he ends up going to back to his old coach, old college coach, Dusty May, of course, new coach out there. And Dallas Hannes Steinbach, he goes to Charlotte. Yuka Hokori, it's really job with KC, but he's gonna get traded to Detroit via the Memphis trade. That's a long story with that one. It's a little complicated. I won't go that. But also shout out to Kareem Lopez, who becomes the first Mexican-born player to be drafted in the NBA in the first round. He played down in New Zealand. You saw how emotional with his parents. You saw how emotional he got. He said he wants to kind of show guys that look like him that, hey, look, you can make it to the NBA. So good for him. Terrence Reed Jr., of course, from UConn. They ended up trading that pick to San Antonio, but he's going to go out west. Joshua Jefferson from Iowa State. He got traded. He was originally drafted by the Teals, but he got traded to Brooklyn. We'll talk about why in a second. Alex Caraban, he ends up drafted by Cavs, but going to trade to Sacramento. And Koa Pino, he was your guy as well, also from Arizona. He ends up going to Phoenix via New York because they swapped picks. So interesting first round here. Kean Wagler, of course, I don't know how well I forgot about him, but he ends up going top 5 to the Clippers. So congrats to him. So I'm sure whether or not Kawhi is there or not, I'm sure he's going to have a nice mentorship over there in Los Angeles.
Yeah, he's going to be playing next to Darius Garland, the former Cleveland point guard as well. So congratulations to him. Another, as we dive into the second round a little bit, Nick Martelli, former Northwestern standout. Hopefully we'll talk about this with a very special guest next week. A little hint there. He was selected by the Knicks, but he was traded to the LA Clippers. So Nick Martelli is going to join Keaton Wagler out there. So we get 2 local Chicago products out there with the Clippers. And of course, Bruce Thornton, the point guard from Ohio State, he was selected by the Knicks, but he was traded to Houston. So he's definitely going to be a project. And Richie Saunders, as we talked about last year on the show, like him and AJ DeMonsa there to run 2 tandem from BYU, of course, before Richie Saunders tore his ACL last year. He's going to be a project. He was selected by Memphis, but he was traded. He was traded, I believe, to Indiana. If my notes are here correct. It was from Indiana via Milwaukee. Memphis selected him with the second pick in the second round. So congratulations to him. So he's going to find a home as he starts his professional career. But hopefully his rehab process is going well, recovering from that torn ACL.
Yeah, it could be very interesting if he can come back, because he's a really great shooter. He's having a great season before he got hurt, unfortunately. Yeah. So we'll see how he goes with there. Otega Oweh, of course, from Kentucky. He was drafted by Miami, but he's going to OKC. Just a couple more. Emmanuel Sharp, he goes to the Kings. Originally from Houston. James Bradley, he gets drafted to Toronto. Speaking with the Purdue, keep the Purdue theme. Trey Kaufman-Rennie is up being drafted by the T-Wolves. They were very busy. We'll talk about that in a second. So so very interesting picks for some of these teams. But like I said, none of these the science can't be official till the new year starts in about a week from now. But a very interesting draft, I'll say. But let's talk about some trades today, because there were some very interesting ones. And I'm not talking about the Giannis trade. We talked about that one already. But Minnesota. Let me see if I gotta get it up here real quick, because this was definitely a head scratcher. to say, well, you know what? Actually, for first shout to Io Devo, who of course stays, like I said, stays with Minnesota. I think it's $120 million contract. So good for Io. Kobe White also just signed a deal to stay with Charlotte. So both the players that the Bulls traded before the trade deadline, they're staying with their respective teams. Of course, like I said, Kobe's from just outside Charlotte, so he gets to stay home. And of course, Io was a big part of Minnesota again as far as they did. So he gets some fresh paper. So good for both of them. Now Minnesota, yeah, good. I'm chuckling here because the trade itself is well, you know, a shout out to Austin Reeves. Of course, he gets a 4-year, $185 million max deal to return to the Lakers with a player option for the final season, which is 29 and 30. So, what do you think about those signings, real quick, Sid? As I try to find this.
I'll start out with the Austin Reeves signing first. Of course, congratulations to him. You know, he's been a French all-star player for the last couple of years in a Lakers uniform. You saw that his absence was big. Some people will argue bigger than Luka Doncic, but that's neither here or there. But he was the second star next to Luka Doncic this past year. Of course, LeBron James, we'll get to him in a second. Of course, Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic played great together when both of them were on the floor. LeBron James kind of fell into that third option, which did help the Lakers a lot, especially down the stretch before Reeves and Doncic were both injured and both of them missed the playoffs. I know also Reeves came back in the playoffs, but Luka Doncic before his season was cut short. So you got to see the glimpse of what this Lakers team could be. Now, on LeBron James, he made close to $52 million this year, as we told you guys. The Lakers are cash strapped, so LeBron James is going to come back. He knows as well as you and I and everybody else does around the league that he's got to take a significant pay cut. Now, if LeBron James goes somewhere else, the Lakers will all of a sudden have this cap space that they desperately need. I think they have player options on DeAndre Ayton and Marcus Smart, RP Tom Heinsohn, Marcus Smart, I believe. So even they decline those, the Lakers still won't have cash space. So for LeBron James, if he wants to come back, he's definitely got to take a reduced pay rate, maybe a little bit less than what he's expecting, but we saw what this Lakers team was last year with all three guys who held there talking about LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves. They're a pretty good team. Yes, they struggled defensively, but they're pretty good when all three of those guys played together. Now, the Lakers, I know they're looking for the James returns because, as we said before in the show, Laeena, the Golden State thing, I'm laughing at that like I'm laughing at a sitcom. Realistically, if LeBron James is going to go somewhere else, is going to go to Cleveland. We all know why, and for him to quote unquote retire happy. But why would you leave Los Angeles at this point in his career? You know as well as I do, he has one good year left, and that's it. Why would you leave Los Angeles to go somewhere else for what? Just to waste time outside of Cleveland. It makes no sense to me. So I think at some point, maybe at the end of July, maybe at the beginning of August, I think we will hear some news about LeBron James returning to the Lakers for one more year. Maybe, like you said before, he'll sign a one-to-one deal or just a 1-year extension. We'll see. But I think LeBron James, this will eventually lead up to LeBron James being back with the Lakers uniform for at least one more year. I said this, and I'll say it again. Next year, I think it's going to be LeBron James last year. He'll be 42 years old by the time next season starts. He's still a very good, effective player, but he's not the player that he once was. I know he keeps his body in great shape, but he can only do so much. And with him playing that third guy role last year, that actually suits him for what this Lakers team wants to do.
Could be very interesting to see what happens. Now, this trade from Charlotte and Minnesota, kind of surprised a lot there. Of course, LaMelo Ball, and look, his name was brought up during trade talks. I know some people thought that he was going to get traded during the draft. That didn't happen. So the Hornets are trading him and Josh Green to the T-Wolves for Naz Reid, a fan favorite up there in Minnesota. A 33 unprotected first-round pick, 3 first-round picks swap in 28, 29, and 30, and 3 second-round picks in 29, 32, and 33. So I guess what you're telling me is that they're trying to win now, which is nothing wrong with that, but that's a lot. There's no shit to LaMelo Ball. He's been very solid for the Hornets. He's led the team in scoring and rebounding, but that's a lot to give up. And so I'm guessing they're in win now mode, but I'm kind of worried about this trade. Sid, what do you think?
I know that Minnesota's a win now, Mo, yeah, because they want to have some playmakers around Anthony Edwards. I get that from that standpoint, but I read something over the week, over the last 2-3 days, that Charlotte didn't want to pay LaMelo Ball's extension, which it was due in a couple years. So for both teams, this was a salary dump move. But for LaMelo Ball, like I said, this past year, this is the first year he's been healthy. He was healthy for long stretches of time and got Charlotte on the doorstep of the playoffs. Also, two thanks to that Kobe White trade from the Bulls in February, which put Charlotte just about over the top. So this was a salary move for both teams. As you mentioned, LaMelo Ball goes to Minnesota. I think him and Anthony Edwards both have the same game, but Anthony Edwards is more of a scorer. He doesn't have to have the ball in his hands a lot like that. LaMelo Ball, the same thing. I know he's a point guard, but he likes to put up shots up as well. So there's going to be an interesting dynamic there. But hopefully Minnesota can get a third scorer to balance that out, because if they don't, they're definitely going to be in trouble. They definitely need another big man as well. But on the flip side for Charlotte, this is a salary dump move. As you mentioned, they re-signed Kobe White, which I thought they were going to do. But Brandon Miller had a nice year last year after having an injury, subpar rookie year. They also need a third scorer. So these two teams basically mirror each other. So I think Minnesota obviously is a better position to win now. We saw what they've done in the playoffs the last 2 or 3 years. And we'll see what happens if Minnesota can swing around and get that third guy to balance out Ball and Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see if there's going to be enough balls for everybody out there in Minnesota. But
no pun intended.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to be a pundit, but but yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in this one. But yeah, that's a lot. So yeah, so I know Minnesota's a win now mode, but it's a lot. I'm sure. We'll see if they got some more moves coming their direction. Like I said, they signed Io to a new extension, so that should help a little bit. Probably going to add another defender as well. So we'll see what happens with that. It was like a C Sports on Sports Chicago. Lakeem McGee, Steve Brown with you, wrapping things up here in this segment. As we get to the bottom of the hour. So I know you had an NFL article from The Athletic that you wanted to.
I want to do that following the commercial break as we get into our sports potpourri segment. So we'll have a little bit more time on that. So I want to do it following this timeout coming up. But just wrap it up on the point on the Minnesota Timberwolves. As you mentioned, they need another wing player. They need another big man. I think in certain circles around the NBA, some people have suggested that they may the Minnesota may explore trading Rudy Gobert. We saw what his impact was in that Denver series in the playoffs this past season, and you saw what he did a couple years ago in the playoffs against Denver and some of the other teams. The Stifle Tower, the 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. Do you think that's a realistic possibility that Minnesota should explore trading him?
They might. I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see what I'm sure. Chris Finch is going to want to try to make this as kind of they want to make it as competitive as possible, especially since you're out west. I mean, you're still going to be dealing with a lot of teams out there. So yeah, so I think it's going to be interesting to see if they can perhaps make another big move ahead. They still got a little bit of cap space left, so I know they traded Julius Randle last week. So that'll be just to see what happens with that. So yeah, I'm kind of like Minnesota's going to be a very fascinating team to watch. Now, speaking of fascinating, Sid. I'm looking at this news from Cody Westerling, who is the editor over at 670thescore.com, who also covers the Bulls for them. The Bulls announced that Lucas and Samantha Walton have acquired a minority interest in both the Bulls and the UC. They're if the name that Walton name, no, they're not related to Bill Walton, but the late great Bill Walton may continue to rest in peace. But they're all of Walmart fame. So yeah, their Lucas's grandparents actually created Walmart, and the rise of everybody's controlling owner and steadfast and long-term commitment of the organization. We'll see, but this is an interesting development here.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming, so we'll see what happens with the like I said, Michael Ryan. So assuming that he has the final say. Like you said, most of these huge corporations are starting to get into the ownerships of sports right now, and there's a lot going on around the United Center with the Bulls in the United Center in particular. Remember, they got that a new project coming within the next year or so. So that area is going to be entirely almost rebuilt in the West Loop there. So interesting developments both within the organization and outside of it as well.
Yeah, this is
I think it's called
fascinating.
the 1901 project, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, so it's a lot of interesting going around the building and inside of it as well.
Yeah, of course. It looks at Lucas is a grandfather, of course, created Walmart, and his wife Samantha is also a big time philanthropist. I know she's done a lot of stuff as well, for what I've read. So yeah, so it's an interesting development here. I know the Rice Survivor basically controlling owner. So is it like the Justin Ishbia thing with the White Sox? Is it going to be like down the line where they'll probably have control in a few years? I mean, I think they're both in their early 40s. They're about our age. So I'll talk about Lucas and Samantha Walton. So that's going to be interesting development. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago City. Laeena here, kicking it with you. When we return, this will be our sports potpourri segment, our last break of the show for the week, and for the show and for the week. So, if you have any last minute questions or comments regarding any of the topics we discussed thus far on today's show, hit us up in the comments at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page, at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. I'll have the NFL article that I found interesting over the last 24 hours. Laeena will have our sports media news and our Men's FIFA Cup World update and a whole lot more. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
Hey, it's your boy, the Superback, Sean Sierra, and be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, on Facebook, Instagram, and our Roku channel. You can find us at Sports Zone Chicago, and on Twitter, we are at Sports Zone Shy. Also, be sure to download our mobile app so you can take Sports Zone Chicago with you on the go.
Got it done here. Ouch! And we're gonna make sure you lit this time. Ouch! You're not gonna get me this time.
Ow, Manny!
Whoops! Let's try an easy one.
Every day, we take steps to keep the people we love safe, but some health risks are easy to miss. Ticks hiding in the yard can spread germs, like the ones that cause Lyme disease. Mice searching for food can spread bacteria that makes us sick. Mosquitoes lay eggs in standing water and can spread West Nile virus and more. Cockroaches are drawn to water in the home, leaving behind allergens that can trigger asthma attacks. Common pests can threaten our health. Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org.
Hey, this is Corey McGee, and I listen to Sean and Maya on the morning show.
Welcome back to Second City Sports and the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded. And we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid is me. Laeena McGee is she. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow Laeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and the IG.
This is our sports potpourri segment. So any of the topics that we discussed thus far on today's show, you have last minute questions or comments for us. For this is our last break of the show for today and for the week. So if you have any last minute questions or comments, hit up the comment section right now at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Laeena will get the open screen for you.
Go to that article, Sid, about the whatever you found on the Athletic.
Oh yes.
Yesterday.
So your surely was your surely was streaming around BleacherReport.com, and I found this interesting article. I know we're still a little bit over a month away from most of the NFL teams reporting to training camp. I found this article, and they had over the last 24, 40 hours or so, ranking the most underrated wide receivers in the NFL ahead of this 2026 season. We'll start off with number 7, Juwan Jennings of the Minnesota Vikings. Of course, he was with the previously with the San Francisco 49ers. He's 28 years old. Of course, he's going to be a target for Kyler Murray and or J.J. McCarthy this year, as the Vikings will try to reach the playoffs again for the first time in a few years. 6'3", 212. You saw what impact he had with the 49ers over the last couple of years. It was a tough transition for him last year, but he's due, according to many pundits, to have a breakout season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting to see. A change of scenery is needed for him over there, so I'm looking forward to seeing how he does up in Minnesota.
All right, checking in at number 6, Jacoby Myers of the Jacksonville Jaguars. The North Carolina State product logged his first 1,000-yard season and campaign with the Raiders in 2024. But as I mentioned, he had a breakout year with the Jacksonville Jaguars. He caught 42 passes for 483 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also provided a 95.2 passer rating when targeted. Of course, he was part of that renaissance along with quarterback Trevor Lawrence last year as the Jacksonville Jaguars won the AFC South Division before losing a close one to the Buffalo Bills in the wild card round of last year's playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see, if they can keep it up. I think, like I said, I think for a lot of that, I'm looking forward to the Bears too. It's gonna be about consistency. So we'll see how Myers and see if he can have an even better year, because the last gonna be expected of him this year.
All right, checking in number 5 is Jalen Coker of the Carolina Panthers. So, of course, he's been in the league for the last couple of years. Injuries have limited him to 11 games each of the last 2 seasons. But last year, Coker caught 65 passes for 872 yards and 5 touchdown passes during his 2 seasons with the Carolina Panthers. Coker has provided a passer rating 113.1 when targeted. Of course, he was part of the renaissance along with Bryce Young on offense, and that's why how Carolina won the NFC South Division over Tampa Bay last year. Of course, you have McMillan, who had an outstanding rookie season on the other side for the Carolina Panthers. But Jalen Coker is predicted to have a breakout season for the Carolina Panthers as he has towards year number 3.
Yeah, it's going to be about consistency with him. Like I said, he was a big reason why Carolina was able to hold off Tampa in an NFC South. So it's going to be interesting to see how he does, especially now you got New Orleans. They're kind of on the come up as well. We'll see how Atlanta does. I know there's a new regime down there. So, yeah, well, let's see how the Panthers do. Like I said, I just want consistency. Keep going.
Yeah, remember, the Carolina Panthers will open up the regular season against the Chicago Bears in Week 1 in the first Sunday of September 13th. Checking in at number 4 on the underrated wide receivers to watch out for, according to NFL Bleacher Report in 2026. Khalil Shakir for the Buffalo Bills. I know we've been waiting for this player to break out over the last couple of years. Of course, Stephon Diggs was traded away from Buffalo a couple of years ago. Shakir has had his moments, but he hasn't quite busted out yet. But with a 6'0" frame and a 4.43 speed, speed Shakir can get by any defender. He has caught the 26-year-old has caught more than 75% of his targets that have provided a passer rate above 100 in each of his past 3 seasons. Now he's going to have a protection next to him with DJ Moore being traded from Chicago this offseason. Khalil Shakir should have a better year going into 2026, in my opinion.
Yeah, he really should. I think he's definitely poised for a breakout season. So yeah, I want to see how he does. Like I said, he'll have DJ Moore over there to kind of help him out now. So he should have a big year.
I think this is an easy one right here. Number 3, Romeo Doubs of the New England Patriots. Of course, Stephon Diggs no longer there. Number 1 wide receiver, A.J. Brown, formerly of the Eagles, now there as the number 1 wide receiver, helping out Drake May going into his 3rd year at quarterback. Romeo Doubs, he had his moments last year, the 6'2", 204-pound wide receiver. He caught 55 passes last year for 724 yards and 6 touchdowns. But with A.J. Brown being the number 1 guy, Romeo Doubs, provided that he stays healthy, should see a whole lot more targets.
Yeah, it really should. So I think he's going to be one of the guys along with Christian Watson. So yeah, I think Dobbs could definitely be could be like a top target. It could kind of breakthrough, being able to have that breakthrough year that we've been looking, we've been searching for him.
Mm-hmm. Number 2, Alec Pierce of the Indianapolis Colts. Of course, he was injured a little bit last year, but when he was healthy, along with Daniel Jones, he was one of the top productive wide receivers in the league. Each of his past 2 seasons, Pierce has led the NFL in yards per catch. I think he should sign a contract extension this offseason if memory serves. So, Alec Pierce is one of those wide receivers. He doesn't get a whole lot of headlines, but he gets a whole lot more to production. And with the Indianapolis Colts going into 2026, we all know a whole lot of pressures on that organization, including Shane Steichen, the head coach, as they try to go back to the playoffs for the first time in a few years. But Alec Pierce, one of those productive guys in the NFL that doesn't get a whole lot of headlines, but he signed a new deal this offseason, so he should get a lot more targets heading to 2026.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot expected from him, especially as the Colts have kind of definitely disappointed last year. So we'll see how Pierce does, among that Colts squad.
Okay, and the last name on this list is Michael Wilson of the Arizona Cardinals, of course. Excuse me. Former quarterback Kyler Murray didn't look at him his way before he got injured. Of course, backup quarterback Jacoby Brissett. He found Michael Wilson as his number 1 target last year. The 26-year-old logged 3 100-yard games despite not topping 50 yards in a game until week 9. He finished with 1,006 yards for the season. He had a breakout campaign in year 2. He's going to get a whole lot more targets heading towards year number 3. Even though Jacoby Brissett will be the quarterback to start with, but we know that the Cardinals are rebuilding. But Michael Wilson will be the leader of that movement as Arizona is trying to rebuild.
Could be interesting to see how he does. Mike LaFleur, not Matt LaFleur, of course he's out there in Green Bay, but his brother Matt. Mike, his brother Mike. We'll see how he does under that offense.
Yeah. And so there's your top 7 underrated wide receivers in the NFL, according to Bleacher Report, heading towards 2026. So if you like one more in depth of that article, just go to Bleacher Report under the NFL section.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. King McGee, Steve Brown with you. Now, the NBA isn't the only league that's having their draft. Let's do the hockey real quick. The NHL draft is tonight, and well, if you were hoping for the Blackhawks to have another top 5 pick, well, that's not happening because on Monday they surprised a lot of folks. They acquired top Sabres defenseman Bowen Byron and Jordan Greenway from the Sabres in exchange for the number 4 pick, which they could have had, and also the 45 pick along with Louise Crevier. So apparently it was Connor Bedard who wanted to play with Byram and kind of helped spearhead this trade. So y'all wanted Kyle Davidson to do something. There's not what y'all wanted, but he did something. So I'm wondering, does this mean that they hope that the Blackhawks are going to be going for the for a playoff, going for the playoffs, I guess, next season?
Well, they should, even though Kyle Davidson got that contract extension. I know they're trying to work on an extension for Connor Bedard right now, which I think it'll happen eventually. But I hope this is this move will be set up for another big move. Hopefully they're planning on making later this offseason. I know, just like the NBA, I know their free agency will start this time next week. But I just hope it's another. This corresponds with another move that they should be making in the coming weeks.
You hope so. So look, we'll see what
You hope.
what. Yeah, I'll say you hope that this is the case, but yeah, because you're not going to have any draft picks for the first early round. So, so we'll see. We'll see how this does here. Now, the Senators have had a very busy last couple of days. They signed Jordan Spence to a new deal, and they also traded for goaltender Samuel Urson. So, Ottawa's been pretty busy so far this off season, and of course the Avs, after disappointing ending to their season, they're totally revamping their roster. They traded Valerie Nushoskin to the Blue Jackets, for a couple of draft picks for this year's draft, and I think they also get Columbus's third round pick for next year, and also the 29th fifth round pick for Nevuskin. So Colorado trying to revamp after what happened, a very disappointing end to their season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know Ottawa has been on the rebuild trail for the last several years. Finally made the playoffs this past season before losing to your Carolina Hurricanes in 5 games. So, Ottawa is on the come up right now. Like I said, Colorado is just rebuilding, and like I said, they took it on the chin against Vegas last year in the Western Conference Finals. So, they're rebuilding and loading up in depth there.
And also, last but not least, the Pro Hockey Hall of Fame, I should say, announces their new inductees earlier this week. Of course, Patrice Bergeron, of course, a Bruins captain and a 4-time Selke Trophy winner. Carey Price, a former goaltender for the Canadiens, Vezina and Hart Trophy winner as well. Pekka Rinne, who I thought he was already in, but I guess he wasn't. Also, a former Vezina Trophy of a long-time net writer for the Preds. Keith Tkachuk, finally, thank goodness. I know it's a shame that he wasn't already in, but he finally gets in. Of course, he'll play for the Jets, the Coyotes, and of course the Blues. Sidney Curley, who was the longtime U.S. women's forward, was one of the first women's international women's hockey players, a pioneer in that sport. Also, Brian Burke, who was a former GM, executive and operations leader for the NHL. So a really solid class this year.
Yeah, congratulations to those that were selected, including Keith Tkachuk. But Keena, so I said it before, and I'll say it again. We're getting old, because I remember Keith Tkachuk. Of course, like you say, he ended his career with the St. Louis Blues. But when the Phoenix Coyotes moved down there in I believe it was in 97, 98, he was one of the first names you thought about, next to another former goaltender, Nikolai Hobby-Bulin. So they put that franchise on the map as far as a professional hockey team in the desert. They couldn't get past the first round, but that's a whole nother story. I know Jeremy Roenick, former Blackhawk, was a part of that squad as well. They were one of the best teams to watch, but this just could get done in the playoffs. But neither here or there. Keith Tkachuk is one of the best scorers in his era. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm happy for him as well.
Yeah, like I said, I remember Carey Price, of course, a long time goaltender for the Canadiens. Also, Bergeron, as well as Pekka Rinne. I know he was a big pain in the butt for the Blackhawks for those first few years.
Except for 2010.
Yeah, exactly. If we know, Google your friend, folks, if you didn't want to know what we're talking about here. But yeah, so yeah, you're happy for all those folks, and like I said, long overdue for Tkachuk. I know he finally celebrated with, of course, with his 2 sons, and also, of course, NHL stars in their own right. But yeah, should be a fun one, and I believe the ceremony will take place, I think, in November sometime. So, and I think it's going to be televised, I think, on NHL Network, so you guys can check that out.
Mm-hmm. Yes. All right, you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Laeena here, kicking it with you. We still have some time left on our sports potpourri segment. Laeena, hopefully I read this correctly as we transition over to Men's FIFA World Cup. I know the USA took it on the chin last night in the game that quote-unquote didn't matter, but their soccer coach is about to get a contract extension. Please let us know the details about that.
Yeah, there was he was just kind of like I don't want to say it was a trial basis, but he's been with the national team in the last couple of years, and he's definitely been able to to turn that team around. Mauricio Pochettino, of course, he's been coaching and managing at various leagues and such. Was a former player in his own right. He's definitely been able to give that U.S. men's team, some fresh perspective and kind of freshen up the roster and such. So he's definitely one of those guys that knows how to get it done. So yeah, he might get a contract, but they might not announce until after the World Cup. So, but we'll see. But yeah, U.S. They lost a tough one to Turkey. Where was the Turkey team a couple of matches ago? But I digress. But they have most of their like second, third string guys on there. They really didn't need that win. But also, a couple of shouts to a few other teams. South Africa, they are going to the round of 32. They advanced for the first time. Also to Cristiano Ronaldo from Portugal. He had 2 goals. He now is the first guy to have goals in 4 different World Cups. So that was kind of interesting there. The Netherlands, of course, they beat Tanzania last night, as well as Japan and Sweden. They tied. The Netherlands ended up winning that group. Ecuador, their first time in I think like 30 years, they advanced, beating Germany. Germany, yeah, it might be saying goodbye to them, but then the next week or so. Some of the matches today and into the weekend: France and Norway as they finishing up group play. Senegal and Iraq. Egypt and Iran. Belgium, they definitely need to win against New Zealand. That's nightcap over in Canada. That's gonna be at 10 o'clock on the Big Fox Network. Tomorrow you got Ghana and Croatia on FS1. It could be for the group. We'll see. England and Panama. They gotta beat Panama pretty handily in order to win that group too. Portugal and Colombia. We'll see how that goes. Portugal's already advanced. Austria and Algeria. That could be for second place in Group L. So yeah, that's about it there. And of course, the first game of the knockout round will be Canada and South Africa. That'll be in SoFi, and that'll be on the Big Fox Network on Sunday. So we're getting right into the transition over to the next round of games, starting on Sunday.
And according to my calendar here for ESPN.com, the USA's next game will be Wednesday in prime time against Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's at 7 o'clock on Fox and Fox Sports 1. So I know we'll get just a little bit more into that on Monday, but that's the USA's next game, as you mentioned, as we get into the next rounds here. So USA has been surprising some people thus far in this tournament. Hopefully they can keep it going.
Yep. So so it should be a lot of fun as we go into the knockout rounds. Of course, you're finishing up some of these group play games this weekend. As the Second City Sports on Sports Chicago, Kim McGee, Steve Brown with you. Let's transition over to sports media news. ESPN made this announcement yesterday. Dave Patch will be the number 2 NFL guy, so he's going to be doing a lot of the the multiple NFL games when they do. Well, they know they're gonna have the headers, but they're gonna have some of the leftover games. And he, actually has now left his role. Of course, he had done radio with the Arizona Cardinals for about 24 years. So he's gonna do that full time. He signed a new extension there to become the lead voice. He's gonna be doing like the NBA and college football, and of course college basketball. But the NFL is going to be the big thing here, and of course. He'll do a lot of the international series games on the NFL Network, of course, with their new partnership.
Yeah, so this is a guy that's been at it, as you mentioned, for a long time with the Arizona Cardinals radio network. I remember him doing some games here and there for the NBA for ESPN. He did some this past season, so he's definitely an underrated voice. We see all the younger talent coming up, but this has been a guy that's been at it for a long time. He's finally getting his due full time on the national stage.
Yeah, definitely, and he's well overdue for that. But while one longtime guy is staying, another guy is leaving. Dave Fleming, who of course, who's done to stay with the theme here. Of course, he's done NFL, he's done college football and college hoops. But now that if you guys remember that Braves Padres game from Monday, that he did alongside Eduardo Perez and Jessica Mendoza. They actually made the announcement that he's no longer with the network. We was there for 16 years. He signed a deal with the NBC earlier this year. I'm assuming he's going to be doing some Olympic stuff, perhaps maybe even some basketball as well, college basketball, as well as of course in the MLB. He's actually going to be doing the game on Peacock alongside Dallas Braden, Mark Guziga, and John Fanta, of course. So so while one guy, a longtime guy, is staying, another guy is leaving.
I believe he was one of the finalists for the White Sox TV job last year. Of course, John Shriver holds that spot right now. He's in the last year of his contract. So could Dave Fleming be back on the block to be the new voice of the TV voice of the White Sox for next year and beyond? I think we should keep an eye on that.
Yeah, I agree. And I thought we talked about it. We thought he was going to get it. So yeah, I think that's So that's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Now, speaking of the NBC, the second game between the Red Sox and the Yankees, Will Middlebrooks, I should say, will be a part of that group, along with, of course, we said it earlier, with Roger Clemens as well as Jason Benetti. Of course, he won the 2013 World Series. I'll talk about Middlebrooks. So that's gonna be very interesting. Of course, Clemens played both for the Yankees and the Red Sox. So that should be an interesting booth Sunday night.
Yeah, hopefully, like I said, the game will be competitive, so you want to drag out some unnecessary stories. But we'll see how NBC plays all this, because it is a big rivalry. Yes, the Red Sox are not having a good year, but we all know that the Yankees bring on big ratings. You either love them or you hate them. It's interesting that picked Roger Clemens because he played for both teams. And so, like I said, Will Middlebrooks, for those who don't know, he does a great job on the Red Sox broadcast locally for Nessa next to Dave O'Brien, another ESPNer, by the way. So he does a great job. But good friend of the show, Jeff Agrest, who covers the Sox and is the sports media critic over at the Chicago Sun-Times. He did an interesting article on Anthony Rizzo, and Anthony Rizzo is going to be part of that broadcast once again this Sunday. He also played for the Yankees for the last couple of years of his career. He wrote it. Jeff Agrest wrote an interesting article about Anthony Rizzo. For those of you that have access, go check it out. But as we talked about before, Laeena, I thought that Anthony Rizzo will have a future in this business. I think Jeff Agrest agrees with us a little bit.
Yeah, he basically said the kind of the sky's the limit for Rizzo, and it's going to be very interesting to see what he does, as it goes down the line. I know he's done a lot of stuff with NBC this year. I'm sure he's going to be doing some more stuff as well. So yeah, I think this is going to be like his time to kind of like do his thing on the TV side of it. We know he's got a great personality. We saw it here in Chicago, of course, out in New York with the Yankees. So yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to see, if he can kind of build some of that momentum, being a rising star over at NBC.
Yeah, because they're giving the bigger roles now, and we'll see what happens. But he's taking advantage of it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this. As this is Second C Sports on Sports Social Chicago. Laeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you here. Now, any other sports media news before we go to something else here?
Let's transition over to something else.
All right. So as we let's see, I'm trying to think here, but yeah, since we got a few more minutes left. So anything else we didn't get to that you want to talk about since we got a few more minutes?
I don't want to end on this sad note, but I'll give it a mention. But today is the 40th anniversary of the death of Len Bias. For those of you that don't know, he was a college basketball standout at the University of Maryland. He averaged 23.2 points per game in his last year in 85-86. Of course, he was selected by the Boston Celtics on draft night in 86. Of course, he died of a drug overdose. And, of course, ESPN had a great documentary that was released in November 2009 called Without Bias. It goes deeper into the life of Len Bias will lead up to that night with him being drafted, will lead up to his unfortunately timely death. Of course, I don't want to get into it too much because, like you said, Google's your friend. That documentary is your friend. For those of you that haven't seen it, but Laeena, like I said, I remember hearing about this story growing up. I saw some film of him growing up. Of course, we were kids back then, but he was supposed to be the next Michael Jordan. Some people called him. His game was better than Michael Jordan. So his game was complimentary to me. He could shoot the three. He was a hell of a rebounder. He was a hell of a scorer, obviously. But looking at his stats when he was at Maryland, he improved every year. He went from 9 points to 15 points to 18 points to 23 points in his senior year. But Len Bias was a hell of a talent. But his life was unfortunately cut short.
Yeah, he was all ACC, and I think his anniversary of his death was last week. But yeah, I think he's definitely one of those what if. I said it on Twitter, and I'm gonna say it here. He's definitely one of the more what if stories of the NBA. So I'm kind of you always wonder like what could have been. Had it not been, he probably could have said that Boston could have won a Bird and McHale and Parrish. I mean, they could have won a couple more titles, perhaps maybe one or two more titles had he had stayed with us. He probably could have. He and Jordan probably could have battled out. Maybe perhaps in the Eastern Conference. We'll never know, unfortunately. But yeah, I know Lefty Driesell, of course, is college coach over in Maryland. I know he was very upset when that news came. I know he was very close with him and didn't really know the issues. Of course, this was in the mid 80s. So this was during that time with the crack cocaine and all that was happening. So unfortunately, Bias became kind of sucked into that, unfortunately. And he's not the first athlete, unfortunately, but he sadly would pass away from that. And of course, he wasn't the first athlete or first famous person, if you want to go that far. So just a sad story. So we'll continue to rest in peace. I know they got a part of the facility they got out there in Maryland. I think there is a part of the facility that is named in his honor. So just sad, all around.
Yeah, I just find it how ironic that the Boston Celtics Lightning was strike twice, no pun intended. Remember, they selected Reggie Lewis in the '87 draft. He was out of Northeastern. Of course, we all know what happened to him. No fault of his own. He had a lifelong condition with his heart. But Reggie Lewis, even though he didn't get the notoriety like Len Bias did because Reggie went to a smaller college, but Reggie Lewis was that scorer, and he was a replacement for Larry Bird. When him and Larry Bird played together, they were very good. Of course, Reggie Lewis grew to be that role when Larry Bird's career was coming to a close. And actually, Reggie was an All-Star in 1992. But Len Bias, like you said, they could have won another championship. They could have beat the Pistons, or maybe they would have shot the Bulls if things would have worked out. But unfortunately, like I said, it's going to be it's a big what if that we'll never get to find out. Just a couple of career highlights for Len Bias. He mentioned his consensus first team All-American 86, consensus second team All-American 85, two-time ACC Player of the Year, two-time first team All-ACC, ACC Athlete of the Year 86, and the ACC Tournament MVP honors in 84, and the fourth team Parade All-American in 1982.
Yeah, a lot of big resumes there. And I think he was all freshman too, I believe, in 82. So he kind of came into the scene I think he was a McDonald's All-American, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, so he definitely was a buzz about him since he was in high school. So just unfortunate that that his life ended the way it did. Now let's end on a kind of a happier note, though. Shout out to Linda Cohn, who will be doing her final Sports Center appearances today at 5, 9, and 10 o'clock. She'll be retiring from ESPN at the end of the month. And, of course, they're going to be celebrating. And as she should, she's doing her own podcast. I know she's been doing the rounds. The reasons why she opted to leave the network. I don't want to get into it. She's, her I don't want to go into her political beliefs. Look, she could, she's free to do what she wants now. So I'm just going to leave it there.
Yeah, and like I said on the show on Monday, she set the standard for female anchors and sportscasters at ESPN. She was the first to do it. She was very engaged. She was very professional and set the template for other female journalists to follow at that network and spread it through all the other major networks as well, with Fox, CBS, NBC, and ABC as well. So she deserves her dues. I know she's a big hockey fan. As I mentioned the other day on our last show, she has her own YouTube channel now, so she discusses hockey a little bit more, and a big fan of 80s music as well. So she's paid her dues over the last 34 years or so. So this is she's going not too many people in this business can step away from it as the way they want to. Usually most people are forced that, but she's going out the way she wants to, and she earned it and deserved it.
Absolutely. So like I said, you can check out her last episodes of SportsCenter, of course, all day today. I know they're going to be sharing some of her best moments. So make sure you guys check it out on ESPN. Anything else before we disperse?
I'm ready to enjoy this weekend. Your Shirley will be down there at Sox Park on Saturday and Sunday, and hopefully the White Sox, they usually play well at home. Hopefully they can take care of these pesky Royals. They beat them 5 out of 7 times this year. Let's see the Southside Human can continue to keep the good times rolling. Let's see if your Cubs can respond by beating the Milwaukee Brewers up there 90 miles north of us.
All right, you can follow McGee on the Twitter, the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, that's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to follow that Sports Zone Chicago. Download that Sports Zone Chicago wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And if you miss the segment, whether it's when we do our NFL picks or we do our other picks, and also, too, if you have an interview, if you miss that, no worries. You can catch the Sports Zone Chicago replays anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago Facebook, YouTube channels. You can catch replays of our show, Sean Sierra Sports, the Smoke Fellas. I know they're going to have a lot of thoughts on the NBA draft coming up tomorrow. So you can catch the replays anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago Facebook, YouTube channels.
And you know we will provide.
Also, shout out to Oklahoma, their baseball team. They win their third Men's College World Series. They got at the right time. It's actually their second Men's College World Series. You got to go back to 1994, so none of those players were even born yet. I think their coach was in high school the last time they won the World Series, but the College World Series. But shout out to the Sooners. Also, shout out to the Sky, too. I know they broke a long losing streak against Portland. I think they play again, I think, tonight. You catch that game on ION if you so choose. So, but also, even still, enjoy the soccer as we get into the knockout rounds. Enjoy the baseball and so much more.
Real quick, Laeena, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to interrupt. Real quick.
No,
shout out to Maureen Mabry Shout out to Maureen Mabry of the Toronto, the new Toronto team. The name escapes me for a moment. She tied a career high in points of the second time for the second most points scored in WNBA history with 53.
Yeah, the tempo. That's what you're talking. The Toronto tempo.
The tempo.
Yeah,
thank
so,
you.
Yeah. Yeah, the Toronto Tempo. Yeah, interesting name, but okay. Yeah, the Toronto Tempo. Yeah, I saw that earlier this week. You know, single game record of 53 points last night as they beat the Sparks. So yeah, I mean, this was the extensions. You know, the expansion teams have been playing pretty well overall. The crowd's been pretty good. Look, you want to play 50 games? Okay, I would say expand the rosters first, but that's a different conversation. But even still,
yeah.
So that's a different conversation. But yeah, so shout out to her, to Maria Maybe for tying that steal game record with 53 points last night. So you can enjoy more if you want to enjoy, WNBA. If you're inclined, you can check that out too. Like I said, for Sid, enjoy all the sports this weekend. For Sid, I'm Lakeith with Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. We'll see you guys on Monday.
Go Sox! Holla!